For centuries, the history of warfare has been built on a single rule. If you wanted to capture a hill, a trench, or a city, your infantry had to set foot there. Dear viewers, welcome to the MrGEOPOL channel. Today, a brand new doctrine of war is being written right before our eyes. That dark future we saw in science fiction films has now become a reality in the trenches of Ukraine. We are witnessing an operation unprecedented in history. The Ukrainian Third Offensive Corps announced that it has carried out the world's first fully unmanned aerial and ground vehicle assault. Yes, you heard that right. Not a single Ukrainian soldier physically entered the trench line. Remotely controlled robotic systems and drones completely overran a Russian position. This is no ordinary technological test, friends. This is a tipping point that fundamentally changes the rules of the game on the battlefield. As the details of the world's first robotic attack come to light, the gravity of the situation before us becomes even clearer. Imagine you're in a trench. There are no flesh and blood soldiers advancing toward you. Instead, steel machines, impervious to your bullets, tireless, fearless, and unyielding, are closing in on you. How long do you think a soldier's psyche can hold out in such a situation? By human nature, one seeks another human to plead for mercy. But you cannot negotiate with a machine. Ukrainian unmanned systems, for the first time in history, captured enemy positions without using any infantry and with zero casualties. This situation is a complete psychological devastation for Russian soldiers. In the footage, Russian soldiers are seen surrendering unarmed to these robotic systems, with the machines taking them prisoner. Surrendering to a robot! The nature of war has changed this drastically. This historic operation is actually just the tip of a much larger strategy. A completely new warfare model has now been implemented in Ukraine. The asymmetric transformation that military experts have been discussing for years has officially taken shape on the front lines today. The Ukrainian army did not stop at simply deploying a few robots. It officially unveiled brand new, unmanned aerial vehicle assault units that seamlessly integrate infantry and robots on the battlefield. The primary objective of these units is clear: to crush the enemy's heaviest fortifications with technology without putting human lives at risk. Robots lead the way and draw fire, drones mark targets from the air, and autonomous systems clear the trenches. Please ask yourself this question: how can an army equipped with conventional infantry rifles stand its ground against this technological synchronization? It cannot. And indeed, they cannot. However, Ukraine's technological display isn't limited to the front lines. The real nightmare is unfolding deep within Russia. Ukraine's defense industry has deployed a jaw-dropping new unmanned aerial vehicle. This new drone can strike targets a full 1,400 kilometers away. But the most critical detail isn't the range, friends. This new system completely bypasses the electronic warfare, EW, systems Russia has spent billions of dollars on. In other words, signal jammers and jammers are completely ineffective against this drone. This situation immediately bore fruit on the battlefield. Russia's supposedly secure rear lines were shaken when a key petrochemical facility 1,200 kilometers deep was struck by drones. You're thousands of kilometers away from Moscow, thinking you're safe, but suddenly an invisible hunter descends from the sky and takes your most critical energy facility offline. The concept of a secure rear for Russia is now officially over. This is where I want to step in, friends. To immediately learn about these monumental technological advancements that are rewriting the rules of war and the raw military realities beyond the propaganda, please don't forget to subscribe to the MrGEOPOL channel and turn on your notifications. Your support is the greatest strength of this independent analysis desk. Let's see how the West is responding to this technological revolution. Ukraine's immense asymmetric success on the battlefield has erased all doubts from the minds of Western allies. The world's major powers opened the financial and military floodgates wide, declaring, "This system works, so we must support it." As allies announced a massive support package for Ukraine, they revealed they had allocated a staggering $4 billion budget solely for air defense. $4 billion! This figure exceeds the annual defense budgets of many countries. The goal is crystal clear: to turn Ukraine's skies into an impenetrable steel dome against Russian missiles. One of the largest components of this massive shield comes from the UK. The UK has officially announced the largest ever drone package for Ukraine. The contents of the package are a true showcase of technology. This massive shipment of British-made combat drones will take Ukraine's air-to-ground strike capability to an unprecedented level. Do you think this aid is limited to Europe alone? Of course not. US-based defense giant Raytheon will supply Ukraine with a Patriot missile system worth a full $3.7 billion. And that's not all. Belgium and Spain have pledged a massive $2.3 billion in defense aid to Ukraine. Germany, meanwhile, is taking its military support to the next level with air defense systems, brand new missiles, and UAV agreements. Friends, when we add up the numbers, the picture that emerges is this. The Western world is not merely defending Ukraine, it is turning it into Europe's most technologically advanced military base. Against this tsunami of advanced technology worth billions of dollars, Russia's chances of holding its ground with its old Soviet stockpiles are mathematically zero. So what is Russia doing in the face of this technological siege? It is resorting to that classic tactic employed by any power losing on the battlefield: threats and blackmail. Cornered, the Kremlin administration took an unprecedented step by officially publishing the addresses of unmanned aerial vehicle facilities in Europe and labeling them as potential targets. This is clearly a tactic of state terrorism, friends. Unable to cope with Ukrainian drones on the battlefield, they are threatening to direct their missiles straight at factories in the heart of Europe. Do you think NATO countries will bow to this cheap blackmail? On the contrary, these threats have only accelerated the West's integration with Ukraine. The giant German firm that produces Iris-T missiles has partnered directly with Ukraine to develop its famous Neptune missiles and produce much cheaper air defense systems. European engineering is merging with Ukraine's battlefield experience. The results of this collaboration are immediately visible on the ground. Ukraine struck a critical Russian drone base hidden at Donetsk airport with French-made Scalp missiles, achieving millimeter-level precision. They blinded the enemy right in its own backyard. Ukraine's arsenal is becoming more and more formidable by the day. According to the latest reports, over 50 new weapon systems in Ukraine's inventory are currently being tested on live targets right on the battlefield. The results of this laboratory are shaping the future of modern warfare. But how does all this technological superiority translate into the bloody, muddy reality of the front lines? While Russia threatens to strike Western factories, there is a far more systematic and massive killing machine operating behind the scenes on the ground. Esteemed viewers, today Ukrainian territory is no longer just a battlefield. It has become the world's deadliest, most real, and most ruthless weapons laboratory. The latest official reports lay bare the full extent of this laboratory's capabilities. Ukraine's military arsenal has been compromised, and it has been revealed that over 50 brand new, unprecedented weapon systems are currently being tested in combat. Please fully grasp the geopolitical significance of this figure. The world's most advanced defense industries spend years testing a single weapon on firing ranges. Yet today, Ukraine is testing 50 new concepts, from artificial intelligence to electronic warfare and autonomous ground-to-air systems, directly against Russian forces under real combat conditions. And these tests are taking place behind the massive steel wall Ukraine has erected in the east of the country. According to the Flawless Geographic Intelligence and Terrain Analysis published by the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, Russian forces are literally hitting a brick wall against the fortress belt Ukraine has built. The ISW report shouts a very clear truth. Russia is trying to exert pressure along the front line with blind stubbornness, but these preparations cannot breach Ukraine's fortress equipped with autonomous systems. On the contrary, every Russian unit sent there turns into a test subject, recorded in the database of these 50 new weapons. What happens when the defensive line cannot be breached? Commanders panic and continue to drive human waves into the trenches using an outdated tactic. However, the Kremlin's much-trusted myth that we have an endless supply of men has now officially collapsed. According to that shocking report recently released by British military intelligence, MI6, and leaked to the global press, Russia's frontline casualties are rising at an incredible rate, and the real disaster is that Russia's new recruitment campaigns simply cannot keep up with this massive rate of attrition. Just think about it, friends. A system that tried to flood the front lines with men using grand promises and astronomical salary offers has collapsed. Why? Because the fact that no one who goes to that front ever returns is now known even in Russia's most remote villages. In your opinion, how many minutes can an infantry unit, forced into the trenches for money alone, having received barely any proper training for weeks, fight when faced with laser-guided steel robots and drones raining death from the sky? Does a soldier with no motivation even have the strength left to pull the trigger? This is precisely the collapse highlighted by the historic analysis conducted by Ben Hodges, one of the US's most legendary generals. General Hodges declared to the world that, as a result of this stalemate on the front lines and technological backwardness, the Kremlin's true vulnerabilities have now been laid bare in all their nakedness. That colossal structure, once deemed invincible and said to have unlimited resources behind it, has turned into an old oak tree being eaten away from within. Ukraine's new generation of defense forces continues to grind down Russia's demographics, military strategy, and most importantly, its hope of victory in those trenches. Wars are won not only with weapons, but with human resources and the economy. And today, Russia stands on the brink of a major collapse on both fronts. The latest report published by British military intelligence, MI6, has revealed to the world the bitter truth the Kremlin has been trying to hide. Russia's casualties are rising at a terrifying rate, and new recruitments simply cannot keep up with the demand. It used to be said that Russia's manpower is limitless. That myth is over, friends. With relentless robots and drones hunting them down, the soldiers they send to the front are being wiped out within hours. Let's look at the situation on the ground. Russia is attempting to maintain a blind offensive along a massive 1,200-kilometer front line. Yet despite this massive offensive, the initiative lies with Ukraine. Ukrainian forces managed to recapture another critical 50-square-kilometer area through a tactical maneuver. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, confirms that Russian forces are desperately ramping up their preparations against Ukraine's famous defense fortress belt, yet have failed to make any tactical progress. These same analyses are receiving extensive coverage in the international press. The striking assessment by Ben Hodges, one of the US's legendary generals, sums up the situation. The Kremlin's true vulnerabilities are now fully exposed. Can the economy of a country whose military is running out of steam survive? Of course not. Panic bells are ringing in Moscow's opulent palaces. Russian President Vladimir Putin was forced to openly rebuke top officials and ministers due to the severe economic downturn in the country. Imagine, your army is being overrun by robots on the front lines. Your petrochemical plants within 1,200 kilometers of your borders are under attack. Your manpower is dwindling, and your economy is sounding the alarm. A leader publicly scolding his staff in front of cameras is not a sign of strength, but of deep helplessness and a loss of control. Let's summarize, friends. All the data on the table, all the intelligence reports, and those cold, hard realities on the ground point to one thing. Ukraine has completely seized the initiative in the war. They have not only taken the military initiative, but have also established themselves at the center of Europe's security architecture diplomatically. President Zelensky announced that official talks have begun with European partners regarding the establishment of a joint air defense system. Ukraine is no longer merely a country defending itself. It has become the main pillar safeguarding Europe's eastern border with autonomous robots, artificial intelligence, and massive shields. And diplomatic obstacles are being overcome one by one. Even Hungarian leader Magyar, who has long been a source of friction within the European Union, has seen the reality and announced that he will not block the massive €90 billion loan the EU is set to provide to Ukraine, but will simply remain on the sidelines of the process. The path for money, weapons, and technology is now completely open. In this war it started, the Kremlin has found itself facing robots that destroy its own tanks, drones that blind its radars, and a West united by trillions of dollars in economic power. So where do you think the future of war is headed? Could a front line managed entirely by unmanned units become the greatest deterrent in the history of warfare since nuclear weapons? Or, no matter how advanced technology becomes, will the fate of war still be determined by human will? I look forward to your unique analytical insights and in-depth comments below. I will read each one carefully and engage in a discussion with you. To ensure you don't miss the bigger picture, stay attuned to the pulse of geopolitics and learn about technological revolutions on the battlefield before anyone else. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and support this information network by liking the videos. I'm Charlie. Keep your mind and vision sharp at all times. See you in the next strategic analysis. Stay safe.